All right, well, let's go ahead and kick off. Got just me today, so I'm hoping for a little bit of interaction from you. I have a few polls to keep you awake. I always appreciate people saying, hey, I'm awake halfway through the webinar. I'll take it all. Oh, Megan, God, it's snowing in Virginia. That's horrible. It's not supposed to snow in Virginia. That's where we go to escape a little warmer weather. All right, so it's me. I am Holly Kane. I'm the head of marketing at Lemonade. I'm super excited to be here today, mostly because I get to talk about my two favorite things, one being learning and one being marketing. I've lived in both worlds. I know the pain of all. Also, every time I'm on a webinar, I kind of feel like I'm in a TED Talk, and I realize I'll never be in a TED Talk because beige isn't my color and those microphones are funny. But this is my chance. So here I am. We're together for the next hour. I'll try to keep it brief. I'll try to keep it entertaining. And why don't we start off with just a little poll to get a sense of where you guys are calling in from in that department level, just so we can sort of level set on who I'm talking. Are you in marketing? Are you in L&D, contact center? You're one of those people that nobody knows. You're in the other world. If you just sort of put your thoughts in there and let us know, that'd be great. And then I'll maybe even cater the webinar a little bit to who we have on the call. I'm lying, I'm just saying that. Oh, look at that. So we have 17% of you are marketing and 17% of you are L&D, my two favorite people. Sorry about the rest of you, you're important too. All right, let's carry on and talk about what we're going to talk about today. Okay, so on the agenda, we have a few things to talk about. We're going to talk about the risk when things come about inconsistency, right? So our webinar being one bank, one voice. What is the risk of inconsistency along that messaging? And in this case, I'm specifically looking on your employees. What does it do to them? And then we'll look at the cost of misalignment and the impact on your customers. How does it impact customers? How does that impact their long-term growth? We'll talk about how to empower customers, building and making them stronger through education. It can and should be different than it is today. And then we'll talk about unifying the employee and customer education. How can we bring that together so that we can leverage both sides of the coin? So first up, inconsistent messaging. There's one thing that kind of drives me nuts, even more than a meeting without an agenda, is the inconsistencies that customers get when they call in. I called my cable company, cable internet phone company this week, and everybody I talked to gave me a different message. And that is more than frustrating. And we've all been there. You ask two employees, same questions, we get completely different answers. Nobody can really agree on what the terms are, the pricing is, if it's available, existing, because we all know these things. And let's be real, when it comes down to it, the employees are there to do the best they can. And when they're confused, it leads to stress on their side, and it kind of doubles down on the employees, on the customer side. We get transferred around, or we get different answers, or I'll get back to, and all of that is not where we need or want to be. So another quick poll, just to keep you guys awake. What's the biggest challenge in your financial institution today when it comes to maintaining consistent messaging? Are different departments sending mixed message? Is there a lack of alignment, maybe in marketing and in training? You don't have a central place for all your documentations. The information you do have, outdated. Or if there's something else, feel free to drop it in the chat. Give it another second or two. All right, let's move forward. Different departments sending mixed messages. Yep, that makes sense. That's real life. Okay, this guy. He's on the phone with his bank. I'm confident it's not your bank, but it might be the bank down the street. As someone who is a recovering learning leader and someone who has spent much of their career in marketing, I'm going to say it, I really believe these two roles are the same. Well, almost the same. Both are about delivering the right message to the right audience at the right time. And learning and marketing are both about communication, engagement, and behavior change, right? So marketing is about ensuring the customers understand and trust your brand, your products, your services. Learning and development ensures your employees understand and can effectively deliver that same message to your customers. And if these two organizations aren't aligned, it leads to chaos, mixed messages, frustration, loss of trust. A well-trained employee is your best brand ambassador because they are delivering that accurate message. They are selling your products. They are building that trust. So when it comes to the inconsistency, the impact on the employee is, well, they feel unprepared and anxious when facing issues that they're not familiar with. That leads to higher stress and job dissatisfaction. That sort of, you think of a call center and a call center at a bank and a credit union, software company, anywhere. That's a high stress job. People are calling you, asking questions, and they get mad at you. If you don't have the information to give it, then that's just increasing your stress. There's a huge fear of making mistakes, and so that's lowering confidence. If you think of your frontline workers in the bank, if they're not sure that they're going to say something right, they're just not going to promote the product. So then you kind of lose that ability there. People are leaving jobs, they're in survival mode. It's just not really a great place to be. And I remember talking to a customer when I first joined Lemonade, and they ran a call center for credit unions. And he said their turnover was off the chart because their employees had to know so many systems, and the stress of understanding those systems and the constant changes was just mind-boggling for them. So their turnover was astronomical until they really decided to dig in on that training side. When training and marketing work together, it's not really about just educating employees and educating customers. It's about really improving the relationships with customers, improving that customer experience, and driving through business results. Now, if we look at the other side and that cost of misalignment when it comes to customers, misalignment is not just a buzzword. It's expensive. It's frustrating. It impacts reputation. It can become a nightmare. And the worst of all is it makes your institution and your employees look bad when really all they're doing is the best that they can do. So before I dive in a little bit more here, again, just an awake check on how people are doing. Another poll for you. How do you think your frontline is doing reinforcing your marketing messages when it comes to the products? And I think really right now it would be funny to see marketing answers and learning and development and operational answers to say, they think the employees are doing a great job. Marketing, I'm in marketing, I can say this. There's always that trust issue. So it'd be interesting to see the comparison between the two. All right, let's push forward. Thanks for staying awake. Okay. When it comes to marketing, frontline teams, customer experience, we already talked about the confusion and frustration that it makes, that it can create, right? So when customers receive different answers, depending on who they're asking, leading to doubt and dissatisfaction, that has a huge impact. It has a huge impact on missed opportunities. Misaligned teams struggle with cross-selling and upselling. And if you can't sort of pull that together, where's that growth? That's what you're missing. It greatly impacts operational efficiencies, just employees looking to find the right information, searching for the information. I spoke to one of our customers recently, and he estimated, and I'll be honest, I think it was a light estimate, that his employees spent half an hour a day just searching for the right information. So think of that productivity lost when you transfer that across every employee every day of the week. It really does push things in all the wrong directions. But when there's alignment and clear and confident interactions, that's when your business grows. So I'm just going to double down on this, and you'll have to forgive me. I'm somewhat exaggerating real life situations, but I'm taking dramatic license. So let's picture your product team comes up with a new mortgage deal. First time house buyers get low fixed rate, no hidden fees. Marketing simplifies it, no fees in your first mortgage. The front line saw the promotion, didn't quite go through all the collateral, and they're telling people there's no closing costs to the mortgage, which isn't correct. And customer service is relying on outdated information, saying it only applies on a 30-year mortgage, and your customer, by the time he gets 3 different answers, doesn't trust anyone and takes his business elsewhere. So the fallout, mistrust, wasted time, possible compliance risks. These are no one's faults. It's just a result of misalignment and training and understanding the product. And how to fix it comes down to alignment, right? To avoid that misinterpretation of the offer details, that messaging, having that central location where all this information lives and employees can search and find the answers they need when they need it. It's about having that just-in-time training that keeps them, as something comes up, as something changes, it pops in, they're getting those, they're seeing those reflective training right away. It's about having those quick answers on the fly. So, there's always those kids in high school, of which I wasn't one, that had the 95% average, and they always seem to know the answer to everything. I can say now without any hesitation, I know too that they had to look up answers on occasion. Our employees, no matter how we train them, are going to need that backup, that instant answer when they need it most. And then enabling that front line to get back right away. You've launched a new product and they've heard the same question 3 times. You've launched a new product and here's where the confusion is coming. And that feedback loop being there, and that feedback loop feeding into the training and feeding into your internal documents to update all that information at once. And I know that sounds a bit like a perfect world, but we're getting there slowly. It's another story for you. Here's the dramatic tech rollout for all you survivors out there. We've all seen it. New bank platform launches. It's going to be amazing. It's going to make things easier. Marketing talks about it. People are dying to get in there and using it, but instead, customers just don't know how to log in. So the excellence just isn't there. And their call center calls are going up by 300%. And this sort of crazy result, which happens all the time on tech rollouts, whether it's at a bank, at a software company, government, hospital, everywhere, there is this small assumption that customers are just going to figure it out. And that just leads to constant frustration. That leads to an overwhelming call to your support team, visits to the bank. And the biggest impact and the biggest sort of crusher on that is a drop in digital adoption. If they try and fail, they're not, it's very hard to convince them to come back. They'll go to the branch. They'll stick with the outdated banking methods. The reputational damage is there. And when we think about it, all we wanted to do is make it better and easier for customers. And all we want now is that old system that was hard to use because we didn't quite get that education element up there. And last one, I promise, the dream credit card, because this one is always near and dear to my heart. Cash back, no annual fee for the first year, yada, yada. You know what happens, right? It gets promoted. Everyone's excited about it. People are like, yes, I'm trading in my old, I want the new. And then the call center, who has to track 8, 10, 12, my bank has 1 million credit cards, all the different features, accidents happen. And when that accident is getting explained, the customer's disappointed. So a successful launch isn't just about great perks, although customers love them, I love them. It's about clear communication, seamless customer experience, and a well-prepared frontline staff. And when employees and customers aren't on the same page, we all know what happens. So what does this mean when it comes to training? So when we think of one bank, one voice, we have to think about that employee training. And without training, employees are navigating the world like a paper map that's half ripped and corners are missing, and they're guessing where to turn left. With proper training, however, it's like a GPS. And it's more than just that click through the training and get it. There's a lot more to it. It's a lot more about habits and behavioral changes. It's a lot more about understanding and seeing connection too. So true training is really that clear direction, just like a GPS. It equips them with the knowledge and confidence. Also, like a GPS, it switches for detours. When things change, employees need to know and need to sort of understand right away that those updates have happened, and they have to be immediate. And so to my training teams out there, I know the pain of keeping training up to date and that pain of making sure employees are constantly being updated through it. It's about being able to not only take themselves, but their colleagues and their customers through the directions to that next step. But where the magic happens is part of it is that customer education, right? So you're training your staff, and it's easier to train the staff, although in a minute I will show you how much stuff you have to train your staff on, and it overwhelms me and scares me for you. But when we also educate our customers, they're making the better financial decisions. They're trusting you more, and they're calling you less for support. So think about like IKEA furniture. That was probably a bad example. If you follow the instructions, again, IKEA, bad example, or watch it on YouTube, whatever it is, everything comes together smoothly. But if you wing it, which I have done, you end up with extra screws, a wobbly table, and a full-blown crisis. There's nothing worse than getting that table together and it wobbles. So if you apply that same logic, follow the directions, things are easier. When it comes to customers, having them understand the product, understanding the steps, that's building confidence. And when they don't, they either avoid it or they flood your support. So customer education isn't just about helping them, it's about like building a strategic advantage that fuels trust and retention. So how does it do that? So it boosts your brand. Education makes marketing more effective because people don't just hear the message, they understand it. They trust, they share their experience. So it's really building your brand trust and visibility. It obviously helps with onboarding. When you think about you become a new member of a credit union, any onboarding and education you can provide makes that process simpler and smoother. But it's more than just that expected onboarding, right? It's instead of waiting for them to come to the next step or next purchase, is taking them along the journey. It's giving them the answers before they even knew they had questions. And it's about continuing to grow with them. I'm gonna take some water. It also drives growth through cross-selling and upselling. People don't buy what they don't understand, right? And a well-educated customer can see that connection in the products. They understand how the different financial tools and products and services work together. It strengthens loyalty and advocacy. When they're confident that in their financial decisions, they will stay with their institution. If they're frustrated, that leads to churn. But they will also become your biggest advocates. They will tell people how great their bank is. They will say that, you know, their bank supported them through this change for the first time. They finally understand 401k and how it all works. When you educate them and share that with them, they will then share about you. It reduces the cost of support. That's an obvious one there, but not only that, it gives your support staff time to become advisors instead of just answering those password questions or the sort of simple questions that could have been taught elsewhere. And it gives you an opportunity, if you think about building out your customer training into an academy, it gives you that opportunity to engage with non-customers, right? So those early customers, thinking, you know, teenager. I remember things have changed a bit. When I was 14 years old, I got my first bank account on my own. And they explained it all to me. You should have seen the interest rate on that bad boy. It was great. But today, that was at Bank and First in my city, Royal Bank. And today I'm still with the bank, Royal Bank, at Bank and First. I never had to leave because I felt supported along their journey and they got me young. So think of education as a way to sort of grab and help the younger out. And as they grow, it's their university, as they grow, it's their mortgage, as they grow, it's their retirement plan. You are building a long-term relationship. And it really does a lot for boosting that product adoption, right? They trust, they understand, and now they're going to look at something new. So does this all really work? We know the training works for employees, right? That's fairly simple. These are just stats from Lemonade customers. When you think of, they've done training on product support and digital adoption, and they've increased the recommendation product. The employees are now recommending products 91% more because they're confident, they're comfortable. When you think of the improved attrition, they're confident, they're comfortable, they're not as stressed, they're not going to leave. Their handle time for support shorter. They know they're quick with the answers. So this is the result of the employee training side. But what about that customer side? When it comes to educating customers, the stats are amazing. They're more likely to stay loyal to companies that support them and help educate them. They're more likely to increase their product adoption. And this is a low number, 38% is a low number. Companies that really dive into customer education, they can see upwards of a 90% growth in product adoption. If support costs will go down. So this is all great. How do we pull it all together? Where do we see customer education? How does it truly fit? So I'm going to look at 3 ways that it fits, and then we'll dive into how to make it happen without blowing your staff up and making a huge work project for everybody. So when we think of customer education, the one thing that it can do is support growth, right? It's about getting people who aren't your customers today and having them come in. So when I think about some strategies around that, how can we use customer education to support growth within a credit union or a bank? Think about community outreach. When you want to do financial literacy workshops, that's an education component that works with your customers, but it also works with the greater community. You can do local partnerships with schools and nonprofits that really sort of helps build that trust through education. Banking events, Q&A sessions, all of those things can be built to develop a community outreach. When you think of those passive lookers, right? What are they? They're trying to figure out information about about 401ks or savings, mortgage, how the mortgage rates are looking and working. They're going to Google. They may not by default go to the bank, they're going to Google, but they may now come across your bank because your customer education platform is sharing that information. So passive lookers who aren't necessarily looking today for a bank may come to your bank because you have a promotion on, and they'll see how you're supporting your customers. If you're providing tools and calculators to the public, they're going to go to your website and use it. I mean, fun fact, just last week, somebody used ChatGPT to find how to do some sort of deposit at the US bank. And the reference of where the information came from their customer education platform that was powered by us, which is why I know that, which I thought was really neat. It helps also with just searches in general. And then the last way about growth strategies is next generation. I sort of touched on that before, but think of youth and banking programs, educating youth so that they have that long-term connection with them and grow with your bank and build that trust because you're helping them understand the financial world that is scary. And you can do that through engaging videos and quizzes and gamification, game-based learning that kind of gets them in and gets them excited. A second way of sort of supporting growth within your bank is really building on that customer success. And we've talked about these things already. So that onboarding, that product training, what they understand, don't understand, they don't buy. What they understand, they may invest in. And then financial wellness. So again, that's about building that connection and trust with your customers. And the last one that really, when you think about what the outcomes of customer education are, it's really advocacy in the end, right? If they trust you, they will talk about you, and they will share information about you. So when you think about how can you turn customer education into advocacy and what are some of the strategies you can use, it's really about empowering your customers to share knowledge. So if you think of your academy or your training for your customers, make those tools easy to share, because if one of your customers sees it and is happy about it, they may share it with somebody else. Consider having a community for people who are interested in learning more. Offer literacy programs that are for your engaged customers that they can only find in your customer academy or customer learning platform. And then leverage those success stories. When someone shares with you what they thought of the training, and they're giving you feedback on new products and services and how they connected and understood it and it was easy to use, share those stories, because that'll encourage other people as well. So educated customers, they become confident advocates. They're going to drive referrals. They're going to strengthen your brand. And that's going to help you sort of grow together. And so we've sort of talked about employee and customer education, the whys, the whats, and kept them fairly separate. I'm going to bring them together. And I'm also going to remind you what I said at the beginning, that marketing and learning, very similar. So I'm going to speak to the marketing people on the line. What is the first thing you do when you launch a marketing campaign? You build a strategy, you outline goals, expected outcomes, how you're going to measure success. And that's exact same approach would be how you would look at building a customer or member education program at your bank or credit union. You're going to define that business impact, right? What are you designing for? Is it about product adoption? Is it about training on a new product? You want to make sure, how are you going to reach your audience? How are you going to get ROI from the effort you're putting into the training? You're going to develop that go-to-market plan for education. What channels will you distribute the training on? Do you need to put any promotional campaigns around it? How are you going to engage the frontline staff to make sure that they're also talking about the customer element of the training and how they can self-serve? You're going to launch it. You're going to track the engagement and the adoption, and then you're going to optimize. Approach customer and member education just like you would any marketing experiment. Start small, prove impact, and grow, right? And as it grows, you'll be able to truly start leveraging BI tools to measure how the education is directly driving business results. And now over to the learning side. I don't have to repeat it. It's the exact same thing. When you're thinking of launching a learning program, you define the impact. You develop the plan of delivery and engagement. You launch and measure, and you continue to improve. So it's the exact same thing. So when we think about what is education and customer and marketing education, same thing, just slightly tweaked on what the content is. So I've talked a lot. I'm going to have a sip of water. And in the meantime, I'm going to ask you guys a little question to make sure that some of you are still awake, because the next slide is a little bit scary. And if it's not really on your radar, that's totally okay. But not a lot of the banks and credit unions are doing this in that level. All right, let's move on to the scary slide. Okay. Oh, look at that. Some of you are thinking about that. Made me so excited. Okay, ready? This is scary. I'm talking to my learning leaders here, and wow. Let's just take a minute to acknowledge just how much bank employees are expected to know and how much of an impact you have on that. Some of this content you see scrolling on your screen applies to customers too. Some doesn't. But how do you keep it all straight? Like this, when I look at this, when I think of what training teams and banks go through, that's like just keeping track of what you need to know. Never mind creating the content's a full-time job. You start creating content. So how do we manage all this? And when I say we, it's because I'm, empathetically sitting with you on this. As someone who has in the past built and delivered and tried to maintain training, that's hard. When I look at that list, all I can think is you're trying to fill a leaky bucket. There's a lot going on and a lot of change. And so that's a lot on your shoulders when it comes to creating. And now I'm talking about customer education. So we're adding sales and advisory element to that, customer support into that, customer experience into that, customer training into that, each kind of having different content. And if right now all of these things are being built in different teams and working in silos, well, yeah, that mixed message, the conflicting information, different voices saying different things. And who suffers as a result? It's the employees, it's the customers. So how do we fix this? If that slide wasn't scary enough, this next slide also a little scary, and I'm sorry. And I'm not going to go through this in great detail, but when we think of having marketing and learning working together, this thing here, masterclass in itself, and that's not me, any stretch of the imagination, but this map really does help us understand, and this is a very basic one for banks, where it just helps us understand our products and where they all connect. So a knowledge graph really is what this is, a scary looking knowledge graph, helps sort of identify the structured relationships between different products, and in this case, financial products, their features, what customers need to know, and what resources and education we may have already. So if I look at this simple one here, it's talking about just what financial products influence each other. So the purple is, your main banking categories. So core banking, lending and credit, investment and wealth. And the green ones are the different products that are associated to each one. So how this crazy thing can help. This is where customer education and marketing and training and development can all come together to align. This is where we can see that if we understand, I'm just going to pick on one of these, and I'm going to have to went in here. You may have a checking account and a savings account, and they are related. So if you have somebody with a checking account, you also want to make sure that the customer understands and is educated on the savings account. Same with credit cards and personal loans. Those relationships really help you understand what to train, what else to train, and how to sort of sneak in that additional training under the radar. So again, credit card connects to personal loans, since both, are used to build credit and financing. So how do you see if somebody has a credit card, then you can start teaching them about personal loans, and it kind of brings that together. And I know this is a lot, and we are not going to go into any more detail on this, I promise. It doesn't have to be this hard. In fact, it's never been easier to do all of this. When you think of this chart here, I asked AI to do for me, and it took 30 seconds. Obviously, it's not in great detail because I don't know your bank and I don't know your institution. But just being able to make those connections is really key. I kind of said the word AI already, and I did get to 35 minutes in before I said it. But it is an opportunity now more than ever for all of us to leverage AI to sort of help in this process, right? So help with show me the relationships, so that if I'm in marketing, I can see what training to push in front of my customers based on what the products they have today. I can see what training I have to help with my employees based on what they know today and what's coming up. When I go back to that scrolling list, and I think when it comes to content creation, on average, 5 to 6 weeks to create a video. And you might be able to do some a little faster, but 5 to 6 weeks to create a video, $300 to $1,000 per minute of that video. That's an expensive spend for customer education. When I think of building a learning module, that can take anywhere from 49 to 700 hours. That's a lot of time. When I think to a blog post, better 2 to 5 hours, and anybody who's written a blog post will say that's not true, it's longer than that. So when I think of those circles and times all those times together, the numbers are out of control. And that's where we get to start leveraging the tools we have today, because expectations of us in the workplace are only going up. And so we need to use the tools that we have. And that's where AI can be your friend. And just to level set, so everyone understands what I'm talking about when I talk about AI. Gen AI is part of AI. So AI, if we think of AI as something that can carry out tasks faster than we could, right? Look at data, figure all that out fast, boom, done. Generative AI is more specialized. It's really good at analyzing and providing the insights, but Gen AI takes it even further and helps create new content. Whether that new content is your presentation or new guidelines or detailed training material, Gen AI sort of steps in to help you there. And I know that people are like, oh, God, everyone's talking about AI, but it's going to take our jobs. I don't want anyone to panic because I don't believe it's anywhere close to taking your jobs. I already said expectations are higher for all of us in the workplace. It's not going to take your job. Who will and may really, and I don't mean to sound gross when I say this, is someone who knows how to use it. And so I challenge all of you to get comfortable in this world. And I don't know why it always looks like this. Why does it always look scary? I have no idea. It's far from scary. It's actually pretty great. And this is another quote I heard in another webinar that I don't remember where I heard it, but I know it was this guy who said it. I love this quote. If we think about Excel in the 80s, it was the same thing. Scary. I don't want to use it. I don't understand what it's used for. Today I couldn't imagine not using spreadsheets, right? It reminds me of somebody I used to work with. She used a typewriter, and I might be aging myself, but she used a typewriter, and I spent a lot of time trying to convince her to give up the typewriter and switch to the computer, but she didn't like the idea. It scared her. It was new. It was different. Once she did it, there was no going back to that typewriter. It didn't have solitaire. She became comfortable, and so we all need to get better and more comfortable with AI and how we use that. All right, I'm going to carry on. I'm going to do Imagine With. We're almost done, guys. Thank you for sticking with me. Imagine if, and this is what we just talked about in the emails we sent out about the webinar. Imagine a world where everyone was speaking with one voice, one way of talking. Imagine a world where all of your marketing content, all of your compliance documentation, your product updates, the product information was all just seamlessly transferred into employee training and customer training. And using these same documents and just asking slightly different prompts, it could create training content for the right audience. And imagine, this is the training people, because I know the number one thing we hate doing is updating content. Imagine if you changed one of those documents. Today, when a product, service, something changes, we go, oh God, I have to find all the content that's related to this. And marketing, you have to update all the product sheets and blog posts and website copy. And in L&D, you have to find all the training and change that and user guides. It's horrible, but imagine if you updated a document and AI could just say, I got you. I'm going to update everything for you. And just did it and then let you know so you could take a look. I mean, that really is something that in today's world, we can't imagine, right? And so when we're comfortable with new technology, we have that opportunity to not only take what we do for our employees, we get to transfer that to what we're doing for our customers. We get to make sure that that instant answer is there when they need it and have it together. And this is just freeing up time to make sure that they're getting the tools that they need. So there is a perfect world out there. Steps to get there, right? So we want to say today you have no customer education. You want to get there. Well, you need to identify the goals of your customer education. You need to identify, is it to increase product adoption? Is it to improve customer experience? Is it to drive further engagement to other products for cross-selling and upselling? And then you need to sort of tie that into what do we have internally for that? What education do our employees currently have today? Then you develop that plan, that unified plan that's consistent across marketing, across training, across customer education. And then you leverage the tools at your disposal, right? And whether that is taking that training that you did for employees and just pushing that out as is to your customers, or whether it's leveraging tools like AI to take that training and instead of it being, a long form e-learning content, it's a quick and punchy game-based learning that'll engage both your customers and your employees. Or maybe it's taking that content and pumping out a quick how-to guide, or taking that content and having AI pump out a blog that you will probably want to tweak a little bit along the way for your own sanity, but have all that created in there. So build that plan out. And then you want to sort of launch it and measure it and collect feedback. and always be enhancing it as you go, and not be afraid of enhancing it because you have built that plan so those updates become easy and simpler because you see all the connections in your nodes along the way. When I think of the big three that actually make this mildly possible, I just realized that maybe the camera has been up blocking the slides this whole time, but nobody's mentioned it to me, so I'm gonna hope that's not true. Consistency is key, right? So you want to be consistent across all your departments. Collaboration matters. Make sure you're working with all the departments together. Every department has content. Imagine if we unified that all together and then we were able to share those things, have those things all come together. And leverage AI for efficiency. Make your life easier. Don't make things harder on yourself. It's okay to use AI, and it's not cheating, and it's totally using your resources. One day, if we become friends, I'll tell you about the time I got through grade 12 economics. Wasn't using AI, but it was definitely using my resources. And so do consider those along the journey. All right, that brings me to questions. Does anyone have any questions? I'm gonna check the chat if I get my mouse in the right spot. I don't see any questions coming in, so I'm gonna carry forward. Got questions? No questions? All right, the final squeeze. Really unified efforts leads to better experience. And marketing and training, you need to work together. You are two of my favorite people in the company. So let's see you working together and going forward. I'm going to leave you with one last thing, one last poll, and then I will bid you adieu, and hopefully we will see you again and not talk about all those nodes. Unless you want to talk about all those nodes, and I'm happy to do that too. So thank you all for joining. Hopefully we will see you again soon. We will follow up with any questions people put in the chat after the call and some of our survey results along with a recording of this thing in that email you know you're going to get after the webinar. So talk to you soon. Take care.